Okay, welcome to the B2 video. Then this is part 2. I'm just going to get straight onto this, so let's begin. This video starts off looking at evolution and natural selection. Okay, so what is evolution? Evolution is basically how an organism has changed over millions of years. You can see how from this picture that humans have changed from being an ape over towards how being modern human right here, and you can see that they've gradually obviously got taller, and so you can see the kind of the features that have changed, obviously less hair, etc. So that is how humans have evolved. Yeah, that is evolution, because there's two that we actually need. This is just a little bit of a joke. You can see how we've actually changed. So what we have to know is when we're talking about how an organism has evolved, what we're really looking at is what features of that living thing have actually changed over those millions of years. This is a horse. Okay, so this is modern horse, how we know it today, and this is how the horse used to be. So the key questions are, how has the horse changed? And you can see the height has increased, more muscular, okay, and obviously lost its spots. Was this random? Okay, so we have got to know the reason why animals have changed over millions of years, which pretty much answers this question. Okay, so looking a little bit more in depth at the horse, so you can see that modern horse over here, you can see is about 1.6 meters tall, and it's got one hoof over there. But the earliest horse, okay, is only 0.4 meters tall, and you can see that. And you can see how its toes are also different as well. You can see it's got 4 toes here, but the modern horse has only got one hoof. So, and also you can see the difference in this and this. It's only a slight increase, but it's 20 centimeters over 20 million years. So why did this horse evolve into this horse? Well, this horse, the smaller horse, used to live in the forests, okay, and it would be running around trying to avoid being eaten by predators. And so you just imagine that you've got a parent of these small horses, and their offspring, their babies, okay, some would be tall and some would be shorter. Those changes are just because of random eggs going with which sperm, normal randomness that you get through fertilization, okay, and you get mutations in DNA. So smaller and taller horses, and you just imagine when they're trying to avoid the predators, which ones are more likely to survive, the shorter ones or the tall ones? The taller ones are more likely to survive because they might be able to run that little bit faster, okay? Whereas the smaller horses might get caught and eaten. So which one out of those two are going to pass on their genes to the next generation? It's going to be the slightly taller horse. And so the horses will have the gene for being that slightly a little bit taller. Now you may be thinking, hang on a second, some smaller horses, bigger horses, is that it? Well, pretty much, yeah, but that change took, like I said before, 20 million years to go 20 centimeters, and that's 2/3 of a ruler, 20 million years. So there we go. So what we're looking at is evolution is that the change of a species over millions of years, and that is what it is, the change of a species. Okay, how do we know this took place? Well, we know it took place because of fossil records, but unfortunately not all fossils have been recovered. So they might ask you a question on why the fossil record is incomplete. Okay, and there are two reasons for that. One reason being that they've not found all of them yet, so some fossils are still out there and we're still looking, so the fossil record is incomplete. And also some of them might have been destroyed, maybe by lava from a volcano, etc. Or earthquakes, anything could have happened. So we haven't found them, or they've been destroyed, are the reasons why the fossil record is not complete. Okay, who came up with a theory of evolution? Well, it was this chap here, Charles Darwin. Okay, so he came up with the theory of evolution, and he trained as a doctor, etc. This was the famous ship that he sailed around the world in. This was the book that he wrote years later, and it was On the Origin of the Species, obviously by Darwin. Okay, and the boat that he sailed away in was called the HMS Beagle. Okay, and like I said, 5-year mission around the world, particularly around South America, and this is where he ended up. And it's these little Galapagos Islands. This is Brazil over here, so this is South America, Peru, Venezuela, Colombia, and the Galapagos Islands are these tiny little islands right here. And it was these 4 islands of particular interest. So why were those 4 islands over here so interesting? Well, it was because of these finches. Okay, so what Darwin realised is, hang on a second, that how come every time I go to a different island, the finches, even though they're a similar bird, are all slightly different. Okay, and what he realised is that some beaks were different depending on which eat on the island, and he realised it might be because of the food. So some of them, like for example the large ground finch, would eat nuts because it's got the big beak to be able to do that, whereas the other birds might be eating seeds or the fruits, etc., like for example the cactus finch, and other ones might be eating insects and getting into little crevices of the tree. So that's how we realised that theory actually happened. So what he said is that evolution has happened, that organism has changed from one type to, well, changed very, very slightly over millions of years. But he explained, he used the theory of natural selection to be able to explain how that happened. So what he said was, within a species, there's always natural selection. Just like I said with the horses, that some of the horses are going to be tall, some of the horses are going to be shorter. Yeah, just like your brothers and sisters, some are taller, some are shorter. Like me and my brother. Less said about that, the better. And so not all the offspring will survive. Like I said, some will be caught, and some just won't be best suited to survive. And so they're going to be competing, that competition, we talked about that in B1, in B2 part 1, for natural resources. There'll be competition for natural resources, and so only the best adapted will survive. So that slightly taller horse, okay, if we go all the way back, is more likely, the slightly taller horses more likely to survive and have babies and pass on their genes, okay, to their offspring. Offspring means babies, so those genes are more likely to get to the next generation. Okay, let's get back to where we were. All right, success. So they were the ones that are more likely to pass their successful genes of that successful adaptation to the next generation. What's the difference between the two? Evolution is the way the organism has changed over a million years, i.e. the horse has got taller, yeah, gone from 0.4 to 1.6. Natural selection explains how the horse changed its height, e.g. shorter horses can't run as fast, so die off, i.e. get caught by predators. Taller horses survive, have babies, and pass on their genes to the next generation. That's what it's all about. If you see a question about this, you're talking about natural variation, how some are going to be different, and it's about the best suited to survive, will survive and pass on their genes to the next generation. Yeah? So mutations and genes and natural variation pass on their genes to the next generation. You notice how I keep stressing that, because that is an important part of any question that you're going to get on natural selection. Okay, did everyone believe his theories? No, they didn't. Okay, because what they thought is that, hang on a second, what are you saying? Are you saying that we evolved from apes? We are better than apes. That was the conversation, which is why this famous drawing was made, and that's Charles Darwin's head on top of an ape. And other people, I mean, this is a very, very famous famous picture. And basically, it also said that Charles Darwin was actually going against the word of God, because people in those days were very, very religious. And so they were the main two reasons why he was ridiculed. So there was no evidence for his ideas, and also it was going against the word of God. Yeah. So other examples of natural selection and evolution. Now, the peppered moth. Okay. Now they normally rest on a silver birch tree. Okay. So you can see this. It's very difficult to see the moth, but this is the outline of it right there. And so before the Industrial Revolution. Now, Industrial Revolution, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about how people suddenly started burning loads of coal in factories, etc. So most moths were on light-coloured trees. So, but soot and pollution in industrial areas blackened the birch trees, and they made them go that little bit darker. Okay, and so now many more dark peppered moths like this one began to be recorded in those particular areas. So why are we getting more of these? Well, it's all got to do with camouflage. Okay, so in the light area, which one is more standout? This one. Which one is more likely to get eaten by birds? This one. Which one is more likely to survive and pass on his genes to the next generation? This one. Okay, whereas after the Industrial Revolution, when the trees were all dark, which one is more likely to get spotted? The lighter one. Which one is more likely to get eaten? the lighter one. Which one is more likely to survive and pass on its gene because of camouflage? The darker one. So you're going to get more darker moths in that particular area. So that pretty much just explains what is happening there. Does that make sense? And that is an example of the peppered moths to really add some more weight behind the theory of evolution. So, what's the difference between evolution and natural selection? I hope you guys know that. It's the way the organism has changed. This explains how the organism has changed over millions of years, and it's got to do with natural variation and mutation amongst their genes, and surviving or being better suited to the environment and surviving and passing their genes on to those successful adaptations to the next generation. Now, there was a lot that I've just been through, and like I said, guys, if you're still slightly unsure, just rewind the video and have another look at it again. Okay, population and pollution. Okay, the world's population is I was going to say improving, but it's increasing. In 1800, it was around about 1 billion, which is 1,000 million. Now there are 8 billion. That's a big increase. Okay, and so you can see that over here. This is a graph of the world population throughout history. So you've got the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, etc. And you can see that the world's population was very, very low. And then suddenly, bang, massive increase. Why has it increased so much? Well, we'll discuss that at the end. But the spike at the end is called exponential growth. Okay, so basically that means that it's a very quick growth. And it means if there's more people, and that means that more people are having babies or available to have babies. This is also known as a growth phase. Okay, it grows because more people are being born than dying. Okay, so more technically, this is how you have to know it. Why is the population increase? Because the birth rate is higher than the death rate, which makes sense. More people are being born than dying, so the population increases. If the population was decreasing, that means that the birth rate would be lower than the death rate. Population going down. What's the problem? Why is there a problem with the population increasing so much? Well, more people means more resources needed. What kind of resources? Feel free to pause the video and try to think of your own reasons why you need more resources. But I'll just tell you right now. So pause it and think, and this is the answer. Fossil fuels. More people means more people living in houses using electricity. Electricity comes from burning coal in power stations and so forth. And more people in cars consuming oil. Okay, minerals to build houses, aluminium and iron to build buildings, etc. So more people, more pollution, more household rubbish running out of landfill sites. We covered that in B1. Sewage increasing, more people going to the toilet, and more CO2 released, causing, what does CO2 release cause? I know you're shouting out the screen right now. Yes, you're right. It is global warming. Boo to the people in the listening to this that said it was something to do with the ozone layer. Bad. No. CO2 is global warming. Okay, so more on pollution. There are 3 types of pollution that you have to be aware of that are linked to an increase in population. Number 1, global warming. Number 2, depletion of the ozone layer. Depletion just means that the ozone layer is getting thinner in parts. And acid rain. So let's look at all 3 of those. Global warming. Greenhouse gases are gases in the atmosphere that trap heat instead of reflecting it back into space. 2 main greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide and methane. CO2 is a natural gas, but we release more of it by burning fossil fuels. So relating all the way back to the carbon cycle, where some of that carbon has been locked away, we're digging all that old carbon out, and then we are burning it, which is increasing the amount of CO2. Methane is released by rice field and by livestock, cows. Cows do tend to fart a lot, and they fart a lot of methane, which does contribute to the greenhouse effect. So I made a bit of a mistake there when I said the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is a good thing, okay, but the natural greenhouse effect is a good thing. So normally you'd get the radiation from the sun. Some of it would bounce off back into space, but some of it would be absorbed by the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, water vapor, and methane, and some of it would be bounced back into the Earth's atmosphere. Problem being is that modern age is we are enhancing the greenhouse effect, which is when the sun is shining down, instead of more of that heat bouncing off into space, more of it is re-radiated back into the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, and that subsequently is heating up our planet, which is a bad thing because polar ice caps melt, sea levels rise, weather gets extreme. Yeah, that kind of thing. Generally bad things. Okay, this shows a picture of the ozone layer. Round about on the planet, and you can see that big massive hole. And why is the ozone layer a good thing? The ozone layer is a good thing because it blocks out harmful UV rays from the sun. But if we are spraying CFC sprays, then we are making a hole in the ozone layer, and so more harmful UV radiation can get in. How does that damage your skin and eyes? Well, it damages your skin because it can give you skin cancer. And it can also damage the retina in the back of your eyes, lead to cataracts, which was one of the exam questions we saw not so very long ago. So, ozone layer in the atmosphere that stops harmful UV rays from reaching us. Remember, UV rays give us skin cancer. Ozone layers became thinner when people started using aerosol sprays, which contain CFCs, and which meant more UV rays are reaching us. So CFCs, you may see that written in full. And if you see it written in full, it means chlorofluorocarbons. So, very bad. So, we banned them. That was in 2000. And the hole is getting smaller. So, we are having an impact, which is good. So, the hole in the ozone layer is getting smaller. Fantastic. That's what we want to hear. Okay, you see these trees? No leaves. Why? Acid rain. Come down. This is a leaf affected by acid rain. This is a leaf not affected by acid rain. Okay, acid rain doesn't just damage the leaves of trees. By the way, you've got to know all the damages by acid rain. One of them is it damages leaves. Another one is it kills the fish in lakes. Another one is where it damages the statues. Okay, so how is acid rain caused? Well, acid rain is when rain becomes more acidic than it already is, because rain is slightly acidic as it already is. So what happens is that we burn fossil fuels, and that contains sulfur. So lumps of coal in power stations contain sulfur inside them. Now, when we burn the coal, we burn the sulfur as well, and it reacts with oxygen, like everything does when it burns. The coal is going to contain carbon. You burn that, it's going to react with oxygen, make carbon dioxide. But the coal is also going to contain atoms of sulfur, and when that reacts with oxygen, it's going to make sulfur dioxide. Okay? Why is sulfur dioxide bad? Well, because the sulfur dioxide in the rain clouds will react with water and make sulfuric acid, which will rain down on the earth, causing these three massive problems. No, this problem, and this problem, which is damaging marble statues. You can see this nice face of the statue has been worn away because of acid rain. No good. Okay, here you go. Factories burning, released gas, acid rain, kills plants, pollutes rivers, and erodes stonework. Three main things. Okay, whaling. I shouldn't say that so gleefully. Whaling. So we're going to know about hunting whales. But first of all, you've got to know that there are two types of whales. There's the baleen whales, which filter the water and eat some sea creatures like krill. That's krill right there. And toothed whales, which hunt other animals like squid, etc. Okay, so you have to know about migration. Now, migration basically refers to how an animal might move from one place to another depending on its seasons. Sometimes when it's too cold in an area, the animal might move to a warmer area. Birds do this all the time. Okay, and so so what whales do is they move from one part of the America all the way to another. So you can say this is the migration route of grey whales. So fall, yeah, that means in the autumn time they go down south where it's a little bit warmer, and in the springtime they go a little bit further north. Why might they go? They might be going to give birth, they might be migrating to find more food, or they might be migrating to actually mate. But migration is how an organism moves from place to place depending on its season. Okay, so this is looking about extinction. Extinction means no longer being around, and endangered means that they are at risk of becoming extinct. So minke whales are endangered. They are hunted for things like oil and meat. If minke whales are hunted too much, there will not be enough breeding pairs to recover their numbers, which means that there are not enough mummy and daddy whales to mate and have babies, and if there aren't enough breeding pairs, so their numbers will go down. This is a whale, this is a whale, this is a dead whale. This Japanese hunting vessel killed 251 minke whales in one season hunt, and you can see, and you may remember in class about we watching those videos, and you realise about those videos how intelligent the whales actually were. And these are the kind of random things that the whale can be used for. So the skin in belts and shoes. I'm not sure I'd want a belt made of whale skin, but some people are weird like that, I suppose. Teeth and pianos. You've got the oil, which is used in lipstick, crayons, candles, soap, fertilizer. Bone, which is used in fertilizers, would you believe? And meat, which is used in pet food, and human meat, and for human food. But like I said, the Japanese love the whale meat, so they like to hunt that. So, can we find the whale hunters other jobs? Because if we tell them, come on guys, don't hunt whales, what are they going to do? Well, because they follow the whales and they know where they're going to be, they can work in tourism. And then people pay a lot of money to see the whales in their natural habitats. And so that is other jobs that whale hunters can do. Okay, so you've got to know how tourism and conservation of animals is a good thing. By the way, conservation is a word that keeps popping up in this unit. I just want to make sure that everyone knows what that means. So conservation is about conserving an animal or a plant. Okay, so for example, if there was a region where a type of gorilla in a forest was very, very low, you would do conservation projects to be able to conserve that gorilla in that particular area. That's what it means by conservation, guys. Don't forget that. Conservation, conserve the animal. Right, sustainable development. That means only taking enough of a resource to leave enough behind so it can recover their numbers and leave a supply for the future. So it's sustainable. Sustainable means keep on going for a longer time. Okay, so e.g., killing only a few whales and leaving lots of males and females to reproduce to increase their numbers. Okay, that's why we have fishing quotas. Fishing quotas talked about how many fish that we've got and how many we can catch, so that would leave enough breeding pairs to increase their numbers. Because we don't want overfishing. We overfish too much, not enough males and females to recover their numbers, and they will die. But fishermen, why would they disagree with this? Well, because they want to catch the fish and sell it, they've got to make a living. And so that's where you get into the two battles for this. Okay, there's a lot of boats going out fishing. That's what I mean. Overfishing, very dangerous. So, sustainability. Okay, sustainability. Looking at what does extinct mean? It means an animal or a plant that is not around anymore. Like the dodo, the saber-toothed tiger, and the dinosaurs. Okay, why animals become extinct? There are two main reasons why an animal becomes extinct. Number one is naturally, so it's changes to its environment, like the Ice Age, thinking of the saber-toothed tiger there. So when there was no longer an Ice Age, the habitat of the animal changed so much that it couldn't evolve to its changing environment fast enough, and so they all died out, including the woolly mammoth right there as well. Or artificially, this is the horrible one, like human activity, where we destroy their habitats, where they live for farming, we put buildings on it and we pollute the lakes, and so things might become extinct. So hunting causes lots of bad things. So like for example, there's a great auk. We hunted it for food, and then when the numbers decreased, they became so rare that people beginning to sell their skin and eggs for a lot of money. The last living pair and one egg was stolen from Iceland in 1844. Can you believe it? We only had one pair left and someone stole it. I still find that shocking. And there you go. That was the great auk, which was hunted so much for its eggs and etc. for its skin. That's no longer, this beautiful, magnificent bird is no longer around anymore. Okay, so endangered animals. These are animals that are at risk of becoming extinct. So they're endangered to become extinct. And so that's where the WWF likes to help the endangered animals. And I made this joke in class that you guys all fell for it, that the WWF help the animals and how they're parachuted into the jungle and carry all the animals out the jungle and help them. I still can't believe that you believed it. And this is what the WWF really do. They make posters and campaigns and make people really, really aware of all the dangerous things that hunting, etc. can do. They do lots of projects, not just make posters. Like they do conservation projects, like stopping people building on particular habitats, for example. This is the giant panda. Okay, now the giant panda, you guys have got to know why it's endangered. Okay, so it is endangered. It only eats bamboo, but that doesn't grow anywhere, so it only grows in certain habitats. We try and conserve it, there's that word again, by banning poaching. Now, I'm not talking about eggs here, but ban poaching. Poaching means shooting an animal. Okay, we also protect its habitat. We say, oh, builders, not building on this land, because that land is just for the bamboo where the giant panda lives. And we do captive breeding programs as well. Now, captive breeding programs are where we breed the pandas in captivity, which means that we breed them in a zoo and we try and increase their numbers. And remember, we had a very good class discussion about the giant pandas and how they don't breed very much. And so it can be really, really difficult to increase their numbers. Okay, other reasons to save the panda? Well, the area where the panda lives is a lot of plant species, and they could provide very important medical value. I mean, a lot of medical discoveries have come from plants, because there's so many thousands and thousands of different plant species. So protecting the panda could also save these species. And tourism. If you get guides showing people around the different areas where the pandas live, they can make money, and that brings tourism and a lot of money towards that area. And if they get money towards that area, they can build and help the local economy and lead to improved transport and water resources. So captive breeding, captive means captured. These animals are bred artificially or allowed to breed or artificially inseminated. And when babies are born, they might be released into the wild. Some people disagree with this. Again, this was the class discussion that we had, that maybe these captive bred animals can't be released back into the wild because they haven't learned the necessary skills to be able to deal with it. Okay, now seed banks. Now, there are about species are also endangered at becoming extinct. Okay, and there's about 60 to 100,000 species that are actually endangered right now. So there are special seed banks, okay, and where we put the seeds in jars and we keep them there just in case that species does die out, we can bring it back. Okay, and one example is Kew Gardens. So their latest seed count when I made this PowerPoint, which is a while ago, so these numbers are probably higher. So at the moment they've got 34,000 wild plant species, and they've got that's not even 2 billion, that looks like almost 2 billion seeds in storage as well. Okay, that's 13% of the world's plant species. That still isn't that much, and that's Kew Gardens right there, and that's the seed bank. Okay, now that is part 2 of the video. I hope you enjoyed that, or well, maybe not enjoy it, it's probably the wrong word. I hope you found that informative, and I did rush through it to keep the video short, but that does mean, if I were you, I would pause it at certain parts and have a think about what I've just talked about, rewind it, go back, because it's not a simple case of getting through all the videos. Go back and see if you know this stuff. So maybe you can, if I talk about a certain area, you can pause it and remind me what I was going to say, and then play it back and see if you're right. Okay, well done guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.